Sorry.
We awarded a grant for Central Oklahoma, and we decided the best time to launch it was 1 month into a pandemic. So you're probably going to hear a lot of changes that have happened since you heard us, because that's a great way to do outreach with the homeless. In the middle of a pandemic. So our business, our grant offers. This is what we're funded to provide and funded to serve. We can serve up to 18 new veterans per month is what we are currently funded at. There's a lot of different things we can do. A lot of it is document recovery. So if we have a veteran who comes in and does not have verification of their veteran status, kind of makes it hard for anybody to be able to refer them out, especially if you're not familiar with DD-214s and AFSCs and MOSs and every other acronym that we like to throw out in the military. It can make it challenging. So we're a partner that can come in and at least do the assessment. A perfect example, I was in Seminole, which is not technically one of our counties, but we can do assessments at any county. But we went out to Seminole, and there was a client that was coming into the AJC out there and had no documentation, and we are working on verifying that veteran status. Whether or not we'll be able to discover it or not is up in the air, but sometimes people come in and you don't have any other way to verify that. So we are working on verifying where that person's status is so that they can start to receive some services. I also recently had a success story, full success story with Manisha out there in El Reno. Had a client that came through, walked through my doors, told me he was going to be a truck driver. Looked at his resume, went over it, and kid had never driven a truck in his life. And got to talking, and what we found out was he left the IT world. He left the IT world because he didn't have certifications. He felt like he failed at college and didn't think he could be successful in that career field. Manisha and I worked together with him, did his reassessment. He is now gainfully employed in a transition job, making over $20 an hour, and is approved to get his network certifications at one of the VOTECs. So a great way of how this partnership can work together, because we wound up bringing in Metro Tech into this. We brought in the COWIB office and then our office as well. And then all of our clients are Department of Labor required to be co-enrolled with an AJC partner. So every single client we get has to somehow be enrolled, co-enrolled. I don't know about you guys, but 10 years of doing this, sometimes getting them to give you their documents back, you get them started, they get a job, and then they ghost you, right? Yep. And you're getting harassment from the higher ups. Where's their pay stub? Where's their proof of employment? Where's their resume? And they have ghosted you. That is another big thing with this program is we're all able to work together. We get those ORIs signed. We're able to get that documentation and share it among each other. So it helps everybody get the documentation they need to keep their grants running and get those funding more. Do we have my PowerPoint?
Yeah. I don't have your PowerPoint. I have your 3 PDFs.
So financial supports we can do. I guess I'll go over that way. Financial supports we can do. We can do transportation assistance. We can do bus passes every 30 days while they are gainfully seeking employment preparation services. We can also provide fuel if they have a legal to operate vehicle and a legal to operate driver's license. We can then help pay for that fuel assistance, and the vehicle must be theirs. We can provide that up to 90 days after they have been placed in their employment to help kind of bridge that. Identification, replacement, reinstatement. We can work on getting those driver's license, birth certificates, all those I-9 documents are part of our program as well. Short-term training and certifications. We can pay for certain training and certifications as long as it lines up with their employment goals. We have an individual right now I'm working with, in fact, I was working with this morning and came up here, he needs his forklift certification. So we are working right now on finding a course that's got an opening here soon. We have interview clothing, so we can help provide interview clothing. We can take them shopping if that is what they need. If they need a fashion advisor for interview appropriate clothing, we can do that. And then also work attire and tools. So once they get that job offer and they start, we can then help make sure that they have everything they need that the employer is asking. Everything from tools, equipment, if they need, whatever it is that the employer is requiring them to need in addition to the wardrobe. We try to make sure they have at least 1 week's worth of appropriate attire. We can do child and dependent care, and this is something that's kind of unique. We can pay up to $625 for that first month of child care support. So if it is a single parent or even a dual income parent, and that child care can get really expensive, especially if it's that first month and you don't have your paychecks in yet. So we can help with that. And then vehicle repairs. We can do certain amounts of vehicle repairs. So needs a new tire, oil change. We can help pay that first month of insurance once they're employed so they can continue to legally drive and operate that vehicle. We do a lot of referrals, which is where a lot of the partners here on this call and a lot of partners in this room come in, as well as the other ones that we use throughout the Regency. I have always found it interesting that we are the homeless veteran reintegration program and we have no housing supports. So we, as a grant operator, so we work with outside partners. We work a lot with SSVF. They are one of our major housing partners for veterans. So we can help walk that veteran through that process as well. And one of the things that I think caused some confusion in the prior presentations, we cover Central Oklahoma. So we cover Oklahoma County and every county that touches Oklahoma County. If it's a client, say the Seminole office, which was Seminole County, we can do an assessment. If that client is wanting to relocate into one of our catchment areas, we can provide some supports and resources on how that might be able to happen. And then we can pick them up from there as an enrollment into our program. So that's kind of how they're working that, whether it's in our catchment area or not. But one of the other big confusions is, so we have a much bigger, broader reach than everybody thinks, is the definition of homeless. So an individual is homeless for our grant when they do not support their own housing situation without the assistance of a supportive agency, so HUD, programs such as SSVF or sober living facilities, housing facilities that are for individuals who have just exited the justice system care. And if they're staying with a friend or a family, so if they've been couch surfing, if somebody else is putting a roof over their head, their name is not on a lease or a mortgage, they are considered homeless for our program because they're not self-sustaining their own housing. And then obviously what most people think of is we also work with veterans who are on the street and street homeless, all the way up to, like I said, just staying with a mom or dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, friend, whoever. We also have at risk of homelessness. So an at-risk individual is somebody who has a real and imminent threat of losing their housing within 60 days. So if they have that eviction notice, a lot of the housing programs with this are 5 days. We do 60 days because the idea is that hopefully we can get them gainfully employed before they get eviction. The nice thing about our program is if it does get to that point where they can't get their rent caught up, we can then help them with finding other housing supports through the other veteran supports. We also then look at the chronic and the episodic homelessness, which if you're in the grant world, you probably are familiar with those terms as well. So there's the individuals who come in who this is their first time not being able to support their housing needs. And then we have individuals that have been having housing needs for quite some time. We have a veteran right now who was street homeless for 13 years. Came into our program. He is still working with his transitional job, but it was a big shift to go from being street homeless for 13 years to now being employed. So he has been happy. He likes his job. We're working on getting a better paying job so that he can fully support himself. But it was just a big step to go from that situation. So we're really proud of him. He did a lot of the work, and that is one of the things that we train our staff and as a team is it's not about providing the solution, it's about providing the opportunities and the options and the choices. I sometimes think if you focus too much on the solution for the person, they're going to wind up back in this situation again. Once we help someone find their employment, we follow them for 2 years. So we call them every quarter. Once a quarter for 2 years to see how they're doing. We have an aftercare program. So if at any point they either get frustrated with their employment, how many of you have placed somebody in a job, they last for 2 weeks, and then their temper gets the better of them. and they say something or they do something and you're just like, there's a better way to handle that situation.
I just came from one of those like
Yeah.
20 minutes ago.
So one of the things we do offer is that aftercare support. So they can continue to call us for 2 years after. And then that's why we do that 90 days of support after they get that first placement, hopefully to try to avoid that. So it is one of the fun times of being in this job, in this career. What you guys have is our flyer. We have all of our services provided. If you scroll up a little bit.
Oh, sure.
And if you're virtual, Kim has all of these electronically. She can send them to you.
They're in the AJC folder. by the way.
Perfect. AJC folder.
Uh-huh.
If you are an employer or you are another agency that does support like this and you would like to get more connected with our program, that is our main number, 418-8522, 405 area code. My extension is 2020. So if you're an employer or you are just another agency that would like to work more with veterans, I am the person to contact. We also are looking definitely for referrals. So veterans that might qualify for our program. We have a QR code. You can scan that. It pulls up an online form. Veterans can self-refer or you can sit with the veteran and help them refer. And then our email address right there, that is our org email. It hits everybody's inbox in the office. So you can send your referral there. We mainly just need a name and a contact and we'll take it from there. When it comes to how we partner together, I really, really like to meet with each office individually and create a referral package. One of the things that also is a good thing that I try to work with our partnership is how many have worked with multiple agencies and your client goes around and tells 4 people they need to apply for SNAP benefits, for example. And now you have 4 caseworkers trying to help this client apply for SNAP benefits and then 4 applications get submitted in. We try to work on letting you know this is what we've identified and what we've already started working with the client, and we provide that documentation when we send a referral over. Also, hearing how your offices operate. One of the things that can sometimes be a struggle with doing these co-enrollment things is the client comes in, just like the client that I was talking about that turned into a success story. Walked into my office, told me he was going to be a CDL driver. He had told 3 different employment coaches, 3 different occupations. So we were all able to work together. And once we started sharing and finding out, okay, why was this going on and which one did he really want to do? So it's also about managing and helping make more efficient use of our time as employment coaches. So all of that goes in there. I have an intro letter that I sent out that talks more about that. So if you are wanting to partner with us, let me know. I would love to come out and sit down with your agencies and just talk more about what we can and cannot help with. And I have one more thing before I open up for anybody who has any questions. The in Northwest Oklahoma City, they have started a Veterans Coalition and they're doing quarterly events. We did an event, employment was our first event last quarter. And I want to say I know of at least 6 of the veterans who attended, all 6 were employed. So we took a different approach. We didn't do a career fair. What we did was we had career coaches come in and we had a really good career coaches that came in and gave some really good advice. Then we had a networking lunch and the clients went and talked to the employers. We got rid of the table. And I know all 6 of our clients that attended that event are now employed. So it was a different approach to doing that. This quarter, we are doing a family social and well-being night. We are going to have some social services providers. I know not just with veterans, but I think in general, it's not uncommon when you have a client come in and you can see there's a bigger need than employment. But they're not going to go talk to a therapist. They're not going to go look at those counseling programs. They're not going to look at those things that might actually provide them the supports. So we're doing a family game night and we're going to have providers that are going to be hosting game tables with Ask Me About their organization, hopefully again, breaking down those barriers, getting rid of the tables. We have not seen, when we do resource fairs, we just don't see the clients showing up to them, but we're starting to see some success with these more socialized type events. So I will make sure, Kim, that you get this flyer because I just got it yesterday. We finalized it yesterday, but it will be Friday, November 19th from 5 to 8. We're gonna have s'mores, a bonfire, they've got a guitar player that's gonna perform. We've got all kinds of things that are available, and it's free to veterans, military service members, and their families. So, lots of information. I try not to talk too fast. What questions do we have?
I see on that list that there's no Schedule A letter type of service. Is it because you guys don't have a dedicated like counselor or vocational rehab counselor that could assist veterans for that? Because if you don't, then I would like to offer our services from Department of Rehabilitation Services, because we can provide Schedule A letters. And those are documents that they need whenever they apply for federal employment or whenever they apply for government.
That would be great. We do, a lot of our veterans, we do send through the BR&E program, but a lot of times our veterans don't always qualify for that. So yes, we do. One of the coaching topics we have is accommodations for disabilities.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be a great one. I've got cards in this pocket.
Yeah, I have my hands.
Okay. I will be here for the rest of the meeting.
All right.
That is great.
Does anybody else have any questions in the audience?
I would just like to say that I enjoyed it. Jennifer came out to work Radio Oklahoma just a few weeks ago. And I would just like to say she did a great job. We met, and there's a lot of ways that we can partner together. And so, yeah, I think it's great to have this resource for our veterans, because there's some that come through, especially through our program, that we can't equip. We can't help them as well as a dedicated veteran staff could, you know. So I think there's a lot of growth and room for partnership.
Thanks. We try.
I do have one more, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Self-employment goals. Have you had veterans coming to your office and ask you if you guys support self-employment goals?
We do.
You do.
It needs to be viable and it needs to be sustainable. There are some Oklahoma Department of Veterans Affairs. We work a lot with them, and they have a staff that works specifically with helping those self-employment goals. We look a lot at making sure that it's going to be legal, legit, sustainable work. And so we do provide those supports. We honestly haven't had too many that have come through. My background, I have my bachelor's degree was in business administration, small business ownership. So we do have that as part of our, what we call our phase 3 part of the program.
Let's see if we have anybody that has a question in the chat room.
There are no questions in the chat.
Okay, so there are no questions in the chat room. All right, well, I appreciate your presentation. And just to be clear, when you first started, or when we had you present last year, you guys were just servicing Oklahoma City, but you're saying now it's the surrounding counties.
Oklahoma County and every county that
Touches it. Okay.
And then we can do those assessments outside of our catchment area. We also have our sister program, who is up in the northeast corner of Oklahoma, so Tulsa County and all of their counties. And then the Muskogee Creek Nation has the 3rd HVRP grant here in Oklahoma, and they cover kind of their Muskogee Creek area as well. You do not have to be a native veteran to work with their HVRP program. It's just Muskogee Creek Nation was one who was awarded the grant.
Okay.
Another benefit about our program is we're called disgruntled vets for a reason. And sometimes we are done with the VA, we are done with the government. While we are a Department of Labor funded grant, we are housed and operated out of Volunteers of America. So if they are done with dealing with all of that, we are a nonprofit and we are not tied to the Department of Veterans Affairs. And sometimes we can help break down those barriers and those frustrations that they felt trying to get access to those benefits. And we can go and walk them through how to get access to them. Because 20 years in, I am a 100% permanent total service connected disabled veteran. It is a hoot trying to sometimes navigate all of that. And everybody on our staff is a veteran as well and has used all of those services.
Are y'all on the Unite Us platform to be able to refer people in and out to get that follow-up data? And all that?
I believe headquarters is working on that. The statewide initiatives, the Tulsa headquarters office generally runs with that. I like to stay here in my little central Oklahoma bubble. We also travel. That was one thing I did not mention. Our clients do not have to come to our offices. We will come and sit with them at your office. We'll meet them at the library, coffee shop. We had a single mom who was really worried about her kids and how they would behave in an office. I think we met them at a Chick-fil-A, and the kids played on the playground and we sat and did our work at the Chick-fil-A.
Nice. That's really awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. And I know that everybody's feeling the same way. Thank you for your service for sure, because we certainly appreciate all that you've done for us and our country. So thank you for that. So if you all know, I will send you the PowerPoint and also the, let me get back on camera. I don't know why I'm talking like that. That probably made no sense to you guys and hilariously funny for the group out here. So anyway,
Just to give a reminder, so on the
Yes.
CoWIB website, if you go up here to the AJC Partners, it will take you to the AJC Partner page. And right here, you can click on meeting and agenda, and resources, and it will take you to folders of all of the presentations and the agendas and also the hot job listings. So you have access to those.
yes, thank you.
Yep.
I appreciate that reminder. So next we have up, and this time we're going to turn our focus onto the screen, at least this group will, and you guys too, because you're out there in cyber world, as you would say. Stop laughing at me, Jared. Okay, so Cody Andrews is the project director with Oklahoma Department of Human Services, and he's going to talk to us about the Be a Neighbor platform through the Department of Human Services. So Cody, you're actually on as a co-host, so when you get ready,
Great.
we're going to change you over to screen.
Awesome. I will, I got everything pulled up, but it's, thank you for having us on the call. On the call, I have another team member of mine, Mandy Mays. She is our head neighbor liaison, which might make a little bit more sense once I chat about a little bit about Be a Neighbor. So I am the project director of, or the director of Be a Neighbor, which is the technology platform I'm about to show. For those of you who may not be familiar with Be a Neighbor, I'll just go ahead and share my screen. I know we might have a condensed timeline here, so I'm going to just get to the important parts as quickly as I can. And it looks like everyone can see my screen because I can see my screen on the CoWIB.
Yes.
Awesome. So this is Be a Neighbor. You can get to Be a Neighbor by beaneighbor.org, beaneighbor.com, any of the beaneighbor.ok.gov. That's just a security URL. And what Be a Neighbor is, once again, for those of you who may not be familiar with Be a Neighbor, it is the original intent. It was kind of dreamt up by Governor Stitt on his campaign trail back in, I believe, 2018. Where he was visiting from community to community, county to county, and talking with, that community and the nonprofits and the people serving the people in that community. And I think he wisely realized that there was a disconnect between how the state and how the nonprofits work alongside each other to, serve the common goal in helping individuals in each of these communities. And so Be a Neighbor was born out of that idea. And with the primary focus of really supporting, working alongside nonprofits and faith-based organizations, which we call neighbor organizations on the site, to better serve our clients. There's a lot of things that the state can do really well, and there's a lot of things that we know that we are probably not the best at, and the nonprofits are really equipped and well suited to meet the needs of their community, and working together can only enhance that experience. And so what you see here is just when you land on beaneighbor.org is just a general seeker search. And so we call it a seeker search. I might use some terms that are a little confusing. They make sense to us, but if there are any questions, please just stop. I'm pretty informal, so if you have a question, please just interrupt and ask a question. When we say the word seeker, we're talking about people who are looking for resources. They're seeking resources. So the first thing we have here is just a kind of an Angie's List style seeker search. You can search by county, and or zip code or whatever it is. And we have all the counties on here, and I'm on the live site. So this is actual, you'll see real data on the site here. And so when I search, I can see a bunch of organizations that have raised their hand or have signed up on the site to meet the needs in the categories that I just selected on the previous screen. We can get pretty granular here. And so this is really a very intuitive, like easy to use self-service option for people that we're serving. If they don't want to call in, they want to talk to somebody about their problems. They know that they have a food need and they're not really sure where to turn. They don't know what's going on in their area. They can select the county, and then they can find these different service types with dozens and dozens of subservice types. If someone were to click on I don't know, we can just click on one, on a profile, it's a Yelp style profile page where they have contact information, eligibility requirements. If there's somebody that is just looking at organizations, they'll have the ability to kind of register as a volunteer with that neighbor organization. So I just looked at the data this morning. I believe we're up to about 720 neighbor organizations, nonprofits, faith-based organizations on the site who have registered. We have over 5,000 volunteers on the site that are actively serving alongside organizations who are serving the community. So if there are needs of an organization, or if there are events, or they have volunteer needs, you can create events, and I'll show you a little bit about the neighbor kind of experience here in a second, but they can do those kinds of things. And a seeker on this kind of experience can just reach out directly to the organization and hopefully get what they need. There's two other primary what we call personas on the site. So I just talked about two really, which was the seekers and the volunteers. The next persona that I will show right now is the neighbor organizations, and I'll just log into a neighbor organization. I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm going to have fake data on the live site. I've hid it from the general public. This is all internal stuff, but it's fake data on the live site. And so I am just logged in as a neighbor organization, and this is what they can see. And I'll explain kind of all the items here. What you land on is a dashboard of all of the referrals that have came in from the state. And so the next persona I will touch on a little bit is the experience for our state agency social workers who are managing caseloads and clients in those caseloads who are looking for resources that are in the community for those clients. And they can make manual referrals out to organizations who have signed up on the site relative to the area their client is in for the needs of that client. There's a number of things we can do here. Neighbor organizations have the ability to, this is once again fake data, but organizations have the ability to accept the request to meet the need. They can reject it. They can refer the need out to another organization that they know could probably meet it. Let's just say you get a request in for, I don't know, clothes, or a neighbor does. And they're like, well, I don't have, these kinds of clothes or baby clothes or whatever it is, but I do know an organization that does that's in the area. They can, if the organization is on the site, they can refer that need request over to the other organization. And the what we call advocates, which would be the social workers, can work alongside those contact folks at the organizations. They can message each other. You can see there's a little icon up here where you can have direct conversations with state agency social workers and message each other and your volunteers and a handful of other things. But once again, I'm gonna keep this pretty brief. So for the sake of time, something that I wanted to show on here, you can, if there are neighbor organizations that have events, you can add your event here. So if a food drive or donation drive or blood drive or whatever kind of event that you're hosting, foster care, those kinds of things, you can add your event here and it will be displayed on our publicly facing homepage. You can submit neighbor needs. Once again, I mentioned this maybe just real briefly. If an organization is serving the community, they're at capacity, they need more resources to either as a church show their benevolence or from a nonprofit actually meet the needs that are coming in. What we are opening up the ability to do, or have opened up the ability to do, is for that organization to submit needs to that volunteer base. So the volunteer base can then connect with the organization for whatever they need. And then once again, kind of carry that over to the person who is looking for that, product or service or resource. We are about to add something here pretty cool, which I really wanted to show. So I mentioned at the beginning, the real solution here is all of the agencies that have that are invested in the common goal of, helping people and having resources for people. It really makes sense to work alongside each other, the state and nonprofits alike. So what we're adding into the neighbor dashboard, and what I did is I just switched over to what we call a mock-up. This is new development that's happening right now as we speak, which will be live in the next week or so, is this explore benefits piece right here. And what this is supposed to do, if you are a neighbor organization, or if there's a neighbor organization that is, serving clients and, they're working alongside and they're jumping into their Be a Neighbor account, what they can do is there's a couple really cool things that they can do. One, we have talked to our folks inside who manage the call centers and some of the eligibility platforms for different state services, to make sure that we could support a physical model in which organizations could reach directly out to the state for the people that they were serving. So this is what this experience would kind of look like. There's a number that someone can call right off the bat, and they can say, hey, this is the hotline for these services. We have done an amazing job, or that team has done an amazing job of decreasing the wait time. I think their average wait time to get to an actual agent is like less than 90 seconds now. And we're receiving 5,000 to 8,000 calls a day. So it's pretty remarkable how well they're doing with this from where it was. And or the other thing we can do is, if you are working alongside, or somebody is working alongside as a neighbor organization with a person in need, excuse me, we can take what is called a pre-qualification assessment. So instead of just going and calling and starting some eligibility stuff and seeing what someone's probably eligible and taking 20, 30, 45 minutes to do to answer some questions, we decided to create a quick and dirty way of just understanding presumptive eligibility for state programs. And so what we did is we took the logic that is built into our eligibility systems, what we call a mainframe, and we condensed it to get a probability of what somebody is probably 90% likely to qualify for, instead of doing the full process. And I'm going to move this thing out of the way. I'm sure you guys can't see that. No. And so this is what it looks like. It's like 10 questions. It's really straightforward. We can walk through it with people, as you're serving individuals who are coming to the neighbor, to your organization. And once again, this is a mock-up, so I don't need to enter in any of this information. But what we can do is we can then, this is not going to be a required field, but people can enter in their information. And the importance of this piece right here is, if they do enter in their information, if this is ever referred to the state, let's just say somebody is qualified for, childcare subsidy or food benefits or TANF dollars or LAHEAP or whatever it is, we can take the information that was just asked, the questions that were just asked, and we can attach it to that contact. And so when somebody actually starts the application process, those are the questions we don't have to answer again, and the process can be expedited. So that's a really cool piece of it. And I wanted to make sure that we showed that feature that's coming into the platform really soon. I'm gonna go back to the home page, and does anyone have any questions so far? I know this is really fast, and it's probably not the typical way we do a presentation, but I want to be respectful of the remaining time here.
Do we have any questions in the audience? And we actually have the lights turned down in here so we can see our screen a little bit, Cody. So
okay.
Does anyone have questions for him?
How do organizations get tagged into this if they're not? Is there a cost? Is there?
So did you hear the question?
How do organizations get tied into this?
Yes.
So I'm glad. So Mandy Mays, once again, is our head neighbor liaison. And that she does a number of things, but that's one of her primary responsibilities. And so she works alongside with all of our organizations for training purposes, for educational things to help people get signed on, but it's a very intuitive process. All anybody would need to do is just click registration at the top right-hand corner, click neighbor organization, and it will go through this flow. We do require a TIN. We validate every organization before we allow them to be visible on the site for obvious reasons. That process typically takes less than 24 hours. And so if somebody registers, they'll get a thank you email. And then within 24 hours, they'll get an email stating if they were accepted or rejected to be on the platform. We haven't ran into any issues thus far with organizations not being who they say they are, but that's just the simple process for it.
The question was, was there a cost? I don't
Nope.
know that we
This
covered
is
that.
this is our state expense. We're just trying to kind of open up the doors a little bit more for organizations who want to work alongside the state. You know, a lot of things that we're hearing from churches and other organizations is, hey, we're really good at finding a bed for somebody for a few days, but we're not great at keeping that bed for a month or 2 months or 3 months or whatever that is. And that's just one example where the state is actually pretty good at finding housing vouchers and things that, you know, the state's kind of built to do. And so what we want to be able to do is offer that sustainable resource alongside some of these organizations who might be feeling like they're either, you know, they don't need any more referrals, right? They have their doors are at capacity right now. And how do we get more out of the resources that are already available to us? So just opening that connection so we can work more intimately with one another. So yeah, and the one thing I'm gonna give you some time back, Kim. The one thing I didn't show is our it's our advocate portal. It's for our state agency caseworkers to log in, and that's a full-blown case management system. And so that's really the engine behind Be a Neighbor, outside of all the cool things that you can do as a neighbor organization and a volunteer. But our state agency social workers, caseworkers use it for a number of their core business functions, and finding and working alongside neighbor organizations is definitely a part of their job. So this is really just that connectivity piece to it. So.
Righty. Were there any questions in the chat box?
No.
Okay. Cody, thank you again for this presentation. I know that you came and spoke to one of our AJCs about this, and I myself am committed to sending to the other one-stop operators across the state so that we can get this message out as far as the platform goes. So thank you very much. And I apologize for the confusion, but I appreciate the flexibility on your end. So thank you again.